Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the One of Us podcast. We're so excited that you're joining us today. We have a fun little combo up ahead. So, who you got today is Juan, Tati, Victoria, and I. And we're starting a little get to know us series, and we're starting with Miss Victoria. So, today we'll be interviewing her, asking her questions, just sprinkle some testimony in there about her life, some wisdom. She's going to be sharing all the
Let's do
things.
it.
Vic, do you want to get started with your testimony? I think it's smart for everyone to know kind of how you got introduced to Christianity and how your relationship with the Lord has kind of grown within the last couple of years.
For sure. All right. Well, like we said in our podcast, today is not to say it's all about me, but today it's all about me. But yeah, let me start off by giving a little background just to who I am and, my story of, where I came to be and how I got here. So for me, I grew up in the church, going to church every Sunday, sometimes 2-3 times a day, going to church on Wednesdays, kind of the routine. It's like, at that point in time for me, it was just a checkbox. Went to church, good. So that's kind of how it was. And honestly, as I got older, the only reason I went was because either my mom was telling me to go or my sister was telling me to go. And that's the only reason why I was at church. And so when my sister went to college and as I got a little bit older, I still went just because my mom was telling me. And when I came to college, I was like, I'm out. Didn't go to church for a hot minute. Um, at least not my freshman year, but my second semester, Tati was going to a church and was going to some Bible studies, and she had been asking me for a while, and I was telling her, no, 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 I'm not doing that. And at this time, Tati was really getting to know the Lord, and even she would come to me and she's like, so I learned this, and I was like, yeah, I already knew that because I've been going to church forever. You're not telling me anything new. Basically, I was being a total butthead. um, but, there was a day I was dating a guy. I broke up. All the friends we had basically went with him. And I was just left with zero friends except for Tati. And Tati took that opportunity to be like, hey, you want to come to church? And in my mind, I was like, I have nothing else. So why not? And I went with her to this group called the InterVarsity. I went with her to all her Bible studies where I actually ended up meeting Quan, who was an apprentice to our other friend Arturo. And I started going with them. And at that time, I kind of just fell back into the routine. I actually really loved all the people. They were a lot different than the people that I grew up in church with. But I was still just going to church and doing Bible studies. It was just that checklist of like, yeah, I know God. I know how to play the game of Christianity, basically. And I was like, I'm pretty good at it. And it wasn't until October of 2017 where we went on a little retreat to Journey. And I think it was the second night because I remember the first night I was actually sitting next to Tati and they were doing an altar call and I felt something pushing me. And even I remember Tati was like, are you wanting to go? And I was like, no, I'm good. And because I was I don't know why I was like so afraid to go up. And the next night we were doing a huge worship night. And I remember I was like, let's sit in the back because in my head, I was like, if I want to dip out, at least no one will see me. But these people here were like, no, we're sitting in the very front row. And I was like, okay, total opposite of what I wanted.
Shout out to the front row sitters.
Yeah, amen. So we went to the very, and when I say front, like front, the front row. There's no rows in front of us. So that just lets you know what kind of group this is. And so we were there, and I was like, okay, I know how to do the worship. Like, I know when they say raise your hands, all this stuff, close your eyes, put on the show, all that jazz. But it was the song Come to the Altar. And I don't know why, like, the Lord was so persistent about meeting me because I didn't come the night before, but He came for me the second night at worship. And I remember during the song Come to the Altar, I had actually closed my eyes and I don't know what happened as to what was going on, but I just remember that I had you know, I had a huge vision. Like everything was so perfectly white around me. And I could see the feet of Jesus. I could see him sitting on his throne. Not his face, just his feet, because it was just too blindingly bright. And I remember just like kneeling down, and I had a crown on my head, and I took it off and I laid it at his feet. And I remember I saw him rise, and I heard the words that I had been longing to hear, which was, "You are loved and you are worthy." And those were the things that absolutely broke me, where I just started bawling because I was like, I never felt worthy. I never felt that I was loved or worthy of being loved. And the Lord just knew exactly what to say to me. And I started crying, in this little vision. And I remember just saying, "All right, I'm in." And immediately as I said I was in, it felt like someone had taken like this backpack that I had just been wearing my entire life that was like full of, 50-pound books, and taken it off my shoulders. And I immediately like snapped out of it. And when I like, kind of came to, I was like kneeling down on the ground on my hands and knees, and I was just bawling. And I was just like, all right, I'm in. Like, I don't know what this really looks like, because it's not going to be anything that I thought it was before. And so, that night, I shared, my story with everyone. And again, that was 2017. It's now, 2024. And I can say every day with the Lord has absolutely grown. I've learned so many new things, and everything that I thought I knew about God, I realized I knew nothing. Like, I knew negative nothing, if that was a thing. And I was like, this is way better than I ever could have imagined, because it was a personal relationship that I had with him. And now I'm here in Vegas and doing a podcast with friends telling people about Jesus. So there you go.
Amen.
It works out.
It all comes back. I think your story is one that is special and I think unique and maybe encouraging to a lot of parents out there that raise their kids in the church, and but then their child like goes to college and like actually makes their faith their own.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's special. Cuz it's funny too, cuz we'll probably get to Tati's story in a few weeks from now. But Tati did not grow up in the church. But she's the one dragging you to church and Bible study. So I just think that God is just funny how he does
he's
stuff.
funny. He's got his stuff.
he got his humor there.
Did your parents know that like in college you were not actively going to church and stuff?
I don't know. I probably wasn't telling them if I was or wasn't. I would talk about so many other things that I just kind of bypassed it.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I was thinking about this before we hopped on the call, but how our freshman year we, clearly we were not both pursuing the Lord.
No.
But how you and me were like literally going to college parties, and we could tell that we probably didn't either one like it. Like we were both just kind of
No.
like we didn't like it. We were trying so many worldly things, but it wasn't really, I don't even know why we did it.
We had friends, and we were going with friends who wanted to go, and we're just like, we'll go make some memories. And we made a few interesting ones for sure. But yeah, the world at that point, we knew the world was not going to satisfy us with those things.
Yeah. I think it's also when like the Lord does that. I think at a very like young age, I never really conformed to the world. Do you feel like you kind of also felt that too growing up?
That I conform to the world, or
That you didn't? Because I felt like I always felt out of place and I didn't really like to do a lot of the things that most people my age were doing. So like were you kind of on a similar boat?
it was hard, because I would say growing up, I didn't really have a whole lot of friends, because I felt like I had the stuff that I liked and I enjoyed, but I couldn't find a group that also enjoyed that. And, more specifically in the church, I honestly didn't really feel accepted into the church, but I didn't feel accepted into the world, because I didn't want to do the things that they were doing. So I was just kind of stuck, and it was just me, myself, and I, basically, because I didn't have anything else.
Nice.
Come on.
we're deleting that.
I'm out here like, wow, Juan's gonna give some really good insight. It just
No,
says,
I was actually gonna make a funny comment
Me
because
saying I'm super lonely, Juan goes, nice.
I was actually gonna say a funny comment because I'm like, okay, high key, maybe this is my ADHD brain kicking in, but I'm like low key trying to decipher whose fire detector needs their battery changed. And I'm like, okay, we're all muted, and I hear beep, and I'm like, dude, that's Victoria. I know it without a doubt.
I don't think it's me.
It is,
I
bro.
don't know.
Everyone's muted, and I hear you're like talking something deep. You're like, meow, meow, and then I hear beep.
First of all,
I
I
think
don't
it's
even
funny.
hear it.
Okay, but actually, I do have a serious question. Okay,
Okay.
so I think I was very blessed in being able to see kind of you from like, walking in the world to being, declaring your faith and then being baptized. But a question that I have is, I saw you kind of come out of your shell, like you were very, I guess, introverted in a sense. Not to say that was wrong, but that you kind of came out of your shell. Like, can you kind of elaborate more about what really made you kind of, I guess, be more carefree or be more spirit led?
I think that, it goes back to, the Lord really does free you from a lot of things. And for me, it wasn't physical things, but a lot of emotional, mental, or spiritual things. And I can say when you guys met me, I was a person that was filled with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. I was just really good at hiding it, a lot of sadness and a lot of loneliness. But again, like I said, I was really good at hiding those things. But the moment where I said, with Jesus at the altar where I'm like, I'm in, like I said, it literally like I don't even know how to describe it. Like imagine like you're just wearing a weighted vest, but you just wear it all your life, so you just become used to it. But when I was like, I'm in it, like the Lord literally took that, like physically and spiritually took that burden, where that was the first time that night where I actually felt free. That those things didn't have a hold on me. And the Lord was so quick to give me that freedom. And so I think that's where, again, with Juan, I and Tati, they saw who I was before. I was pretty quiet, didn't really talk a lot. I still am honestly pretty quiet, depending who you ask. but um but I'm not as afraid as I used to be to go and talk to people or, make conversations or honestly just, you know, be who I am without that fear of like, oh, if I do this, they're going to think this, or if I do that, they're going to, judge me for this, and all these different things that used to literally consume me. And so, yeah, I think to answer your question, it was just the Lord offered me, freedom, and I took it.
Yeah. It sounds like you had like that big moment, right? Because some people, it kind of happens gradually over their life, but it sounds like you had a moment, a night when you were like, okay, I'm done. Like, I understand who I am, right? That I am worthy, that I am a daughter of the king, and I want to follow in that. What did the aftermath, I guess, of that process look like? What did the days like after that big moment for you? What was that like?
I think after that, I was had told myself I'm 100% in, but I was honest with the Lord. I was like, I know my relationship can't be what it was before, but I have no idea what it's supposed to look like now. And it was just a lot of coming to the Lord. I'm like, and just talking to Him because I was like, I know you can talk to me because you just did it. So I was like, I know that your word is going to guide me. But it was a slow process. Like, even for me, like, I remember when this happened, I was like, okay, I'm going to actually read my Bible. But I would read one Bible verse at a time, and I would just try and focus and memorize that verse because I was, what I had read before, when I came to read it myself with now having a relationship with Jesus, I was like, oh, this actually doesn't mean what I thought it meant. And I'm relearning everything, about Jesus and, his word and all this stuff. So it was a very slow and gradual thing, but it was also, I would watch you guys a lot because, and I think that's why God did what He did when we all became friends, because you guys were well off in your faith and you guys were obviously much farther than where I was. And at sometimes it was intimidating, but it was also beautiful because I was like, I get to see and learn and observe. And so I know even sometimes during Bible studies, I was silent because I was like, you can look at my Bible. I'm taking down notes because I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. I was like, whoa, that means something completely different. I was like, what the heck? And absolutely loved it. But I learned so much and I saw, I was like, this is how they have relationships. And I was like, if, their relationship with the Lord is so strong, I want to be there. So I would practice and do some of these things of, reading my Bible daily, asking questions, taking notes, and being honest and, in prayer of, talking to God. I'd be like, hey, I read this today and this is what I got. Or there would be some things where I'm like, honestly, God, I read this. I don't know what I read. I was like, I want to, but I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. And there's a deep vulnerability and there is so much even patience and mercy from the Lord. And I feel like the more that I pressed into him, the more that I grew.
Oftentimes, we always hear like, once you give your life to Jesus, like you're gonna get hit hard. like yes, you find freedom and it's the best decision you'll ever make, and you're gonna walk like the best path you ever walked with the best God, like right there with you along the way. But people say, and some people's experience, that it's like, oh, but you also get a flood of like, the enemy does not want this to happen, sort of thing. um and even in your own flesh, like, was there any battles that you fought, like, I guess, or like, we all still fight our battles, we're still fighting the flesh every day, but was there anything like extreme you feel like you were now faced with, or realizations as you have this new awareness that you were faced with early on in your faith?
I always think back on this and I always tell myself I put myself in a lot of predicaments where honestly I probably could have been dead or really badly hurt. And I think honestly I look back on some things and I'm like, the Lord really was protecting me. And I think even for those moments when I came to the Lord, I had surrendered. Like when I said I was in, I was all in 100%. I told him, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here to do it. And I felt like I had taken so much, you know, I really had taken refuge in him where I felt like he was protecting me from a lot of things, but I still feel like he would allow some things just because he needed me to learn and grow. But this is one thing where I love God because I'm like, God, honestly, even though I'm me, God still knows me better than I know myself. And there were a lot of moments where sometimes, like you're saying, Crystal, people do get hit with the truck, but I feel like God was very slow to reveal a lot of things to me, probably because he knew at that moment he was pushing me, but he wasn't going to push me away. But he challenged me a lot. And, little by little, there were things where I was like, oh, that's something I can work on and grow in. Oh, that's something I can work on and grow in. The only thing that I can honestly say was probably just like mentally. Sometimes I would overthink a lot of situations and I would, still sometimes was a little anxious. And those were things that I really had to learn to give over to the Lord. But that was the thing is I knew in that moment, as long as I can go back to his word and, continue to talk to God, then I'll be okay at the end of the day. And that's honestly what got me through it all.
Going on the same vein, I was just wondering if you can recall any early challenge when you just recently got saved, right? You just said yes to the Lord, you're walking in the light. Can you, if you can be specific or not, of a time when you had to face a difficulty where your faith was tested and like what you learned from it and what that trial really did for your perseverance?
Yeah. I think the biggest one, honestly, Crystal and I were talking about this the other day. It's kind of funny, but not funny, just to kind of give insight. I think when I had known you guys before I had gotten saved, like if you guys were to walk away or hypothetically the relationship didn't work out, I would not have been unfazed. I'd have been like, whatever, I've been alone. I can keep doing it alone. I've been going this long. I can finish it out, whatever. But I think when I came to faith, again, I was understanding what it meant to be loved, but I was also understanding what it meant to love. and I had not understood it or had not known it the way that I thought I knew it. And so my even the definition of love itself was out the window. I was like, we're starting from scratch, everything. And there are a lot of moments where, in times of conflict or hanging out, sometimes I would get really afraid of like, what happens if I lose these people? Like, I have come to actually really love them. And as I came to, as I grew in my faith, I also realized that you guys were each answered prayers. Because I know, like in high school, I would pray and I would ask God, just I want one friend. I was like, I don't have to be friends with everyone, but I was like, I just want one real genuine friend. And I was like, and I'll be happy. I don't want anything more than that. That's not I didn't want like a relationship. I just wanted a friend. That was it. And when the friend group grew, I realized I was like, this is an answered prayer, but I was like, he's giving me way more than what I asked for. I was like, I didn't just have one genuine friend. I had like 10 to 15 because everyone was just coming in and everyone was so intentional and so kind and loving. And I was like, this is like an answer. This literally is an answered prayer. I'm like, I'm living in it. And there are a lot of moments where it was scary because I was like, what if something happens that I won't be able to solve? And I was always like, it's going to be me that messes it up. And I was like, I don't want to live how I used to before, where my solution was just to kind of dip out or be whatever. I was like, I want to work through it, but I don't even know how to work through it. And I was like, what if I just mess it up and that's it? I realized I was going to go back into that place of loneliness, and I was like, I don't like that place anymore. Like, especially since I've, seen the freedom and seen the peace and honestly seen the light. And so that was probably the hardest thing. And I think one thing that I love about you guys is you guys were always, reassuring me that you were always in it for the long run. And I think it took me some time to realize that you weren't just saying it, but there were so many moments you guys showed me. And I honestly felt that was a reflection of Christ. And even in his word, the Lord not only said things, but he did things. And you guys had shown that to me a lot. And that was something that I felt like I had learned. It was not to just say, but to do as well.
As you were talking, like I thought of, you said you came to faith and you experienced this vulnerability for maybe the first time, right? Where now it's like there are stakes here. Like I actually care. Like I'm
Yeah.
not numb to a lot of things anymore. So with, the faith and the vulnerability, I think those two things together really create like community and create this fellowship that seems like it was the right environment, right? The right mixture, the right chemicals, the right stew for your faith to like really like grow. And like you said, it was an answer prayer for you, and 100% it was an answer prayer for all of us. But it's cool to kind of see that how like you got the different portions of what you needed and this giant stew that just flourished your faith um, in the Lord and brought you to where you are today and the woman you are today. So I think that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Obviously, you just mentioned how the Lord kind of changed your perspective on relationships when it comes to friendships. How has he changed your relationships with other people outside of that? So, like family, maybe strangers, and coworkers, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think with friends, it's been easy, but I think outside, I'll say with family, even in that, I would say with my sister, I was closer to her because Sue, if you know my sister Sue, she's a very easy person to talk to. She's, very free, lively. Her and I would talk. But I think, even recently with my brother's 6 years older. And, when he comes, we would just play games. But him and I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. But, you know, a couple weeks ago, he came down, and I can say that I've talked to my brother like I've never talked to my brother like I did in those moments where we had discussions. We would be able to talk for hours rather before I would be able to talk maybe about a few minutes. And it was cool because we would do Bible studies together and, pray with one another and things that we had never done before. We would have daily conversations and, I would think back, I'm like, that's only because of the Lord. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I'd always wanted to have that relationship with my brother, but never knew how to get there. But I think sometimes in the process, the Lord was preparing me to have those conversations. And, now I can say that I really have like an amazing, genuine relationship with my brother Ken. So that's been amazing, even being able to be vulnerable with my brother. I think, Crystal talked about it, that vulnerability. And I knew how to do that with my brother, because before I was like, I can't be vulnerable with my brother. Like, we've grown up together. We're just going to sit down and play Mario Kart because that's what we do. We're Super Smash. I can do that. That's easy. Having a conversation, I don't know about that. But now the Lord has, worked on that, where because of that, now I have the relationship that I have with him now. And as for coworkers, you know, um, there's another thing I feel like the Lord has been kind of working on, and it's, that level of confidence. And I feel like sometimes I would lack a lot of confidence, but now I don't really put the confidence in myself, but I put it in the Lord. And, the Lord is a huge part of my identity and who I am. And I think I always kind of just, I'm learning to lead with that. And I think with people, like I said, before I used to be so afraid to talk to people because I'm like, oh, if I say this, I say that. And granted, sometimes I still say stuff that I'm like, it's not the best. And sometimes it's unfiltered. And I think, yeah, some people are just like, whoa, that's really awkward. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But now I'm just at a point where I can laugh, and I'm like, that's just one of my many beautiful traits.
Makes you unique.
It definitely makes me unique. I can say someone was trying to tell me something the other day, and I was just like, okay. Like, I didn't mean to. I was just like, you really caught me off guard. And so, but then, going back and, having the questions and talking to himself, but, answering your question, I think, it's being unafraid to just talk to people and ask them questions, and even, being able to share stuff about yourself and finding ways to relate and understand them somehow. And so I think that's what it really comes back down to.
Kind of down that vein, what you were talking about, Vic. In the life of a believer, oftentimes when you're starting out, like when people say a green Christian or a new Christian, whatever that means, and you're really in the phase of learning, absorbing, having conversations, asking questions, kind of what you're describing, right? It's that moment, and after that, you're just trying to get fed, right? Really trying to read the Bible, really trying to learn. And you continue through your life, but at some point it's like, okay, like you're no longer, what is it, like only drinking milk, now you're like eating meat, and now you can share that milk and meat with other people, sort of thing, and being sent out into the world. So when did that happen for you, that transition of going from, I'm only receiving the word, right, to like grow my spirit and grow my faith, and now I'm gonna really be that everyday missionary and be sent out?
Yeah. Okay, good question. But I would say it honestly took a few years, because again, I was still learning so much, and I knew what I had to do. I just didn't know how to do it. And oftentimes I felt I don't have enough information. Like, what if someone asks me this or asks me that? And I was just still learning so much through myself. But I think the more that I grew in my faith, the easier it was to share it with people and to talk about it with people. And now I've come to a point where when people tell me like, hey, tell me about yourself, the first thing that I say, well, I'm a Christian and I love the Lord. And that's been such a great way to be able to, share Jesus with people and the things that are important and I value in my life. Or even there have been moments, a couple years ago, I was in a Bible study with a guy named Dan, and he really, as iron sharpens iron, he was really sharpening, because he was like, we're going to go out to the mall and we're going to go tell people about Jesus. And I was like, whoa, brother, that's a lot, but okay. But it came to a point where there was so much practice in being able to go to people. And honestly, a lot more people actually said yes than they said no, of just asking people, hey, can I pray for you? And being able to hear people's stories and how much, just as much as like I had been craving something, someone else was. as well. So I would say it was just a kind of like a gradual, slow thing. I think for me, it was a lot of observation, a lot of learning, because it really was. You know, I was an infant that knew absolutely nothing. And as I grew and started, not really desiring the milk and wanting the meat, when I came to desire the meat, I came to want to tell people and want to share it and share that huge part of myself that I used to keep secret for so long. Does that answer the question?
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like at any point in those years that you said, do you feel like at any point you thought that you became kind of comfortable, or do you think you've always been like growing and moving, you know?
I think maybe there were some seasons where I was like here, but I never wanted to be comfortable. But also the fact that I was always surrounded by a group of people that never wanted to be comfortable, I felt like each and every one of you always challenged me in different ways. And I felt like I was honestly, even if I did get comfortable, it didn't last longer than a minute because you guys were out here pushing me to do stuff and grow my faith. And I would watch and see how you guys would, live out the word. And, I would try and learn to be able to do it myself on my own one day. Um, but yeah, the moments of comfortability never lasted long because one, I was like, I don't want to get into that state of comfortability. I want to, because I know if you stay comfortable, I'm not going to grow. And I was like, I want to grow because each time that I grow, I learn something new and I become this person that I actually really enjoy. And it's only because I know it's what God has been doing and not what I've been doing. And so I would just tell myself, why would I stop here?
Amen. All right, Victoria. Well, thank you for sharing your testimony and just for our audience to get to know you on a deeper level. I'm just going to open up the floor to some more, I would say, unique question asking, just so our followers can get to know you, just the type of person you are. So here's my first unique question is if you could have dinner with anybody, either present or alive right now, who would it be?
Oh, geez. Okay. I feel like is it too cliche to say Jesus at this point? Because this is what we've been talking about.
Girl, you can have dinner with him every day.
That's okay. Besides
But
Jesus,
today,
besides Jesus,
today,
besides Jesus.
um, okay, if we're talking about people in the Bible, I would 100% say Esther because I feel like she'd be a cool person. Also, if you guys don't know, I love the book of Esther. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible. Fun little fact. Um, so that's who I would have dinner with in the Bible. If it was the outside outside of the Bible, like in worlds today, um, honestly, I'd kind of say Robert Downey Jr. or Jason Momoa because I feel like they'd be really funny people to have dinner with. So,
Sheesh.
I vote for Jason.
Okay.
Jason Momoa, if you're hearing this, go get some dinner with Victoria. Or if you happen to know Jason Momoa.
hook a girl up.
Okay, I have a second follow-up question. All right,
Okay.
so I feel like as one of your best friends, not trying to expose you, you have this tendency to pick up a ton of hobbies and then drop them.
Oh, okay.
But but I want to know.
Were you getting worried there for a
I
second?
was like, whoa.
I think I already know
I'm
what
sorry.
he was saying.
It's 8 years of friendship. There's a lot of stuff these people have seen.
Don't
and
worry,
watched
don't worry,
me
don't
do.
worry, don't worry.
So I was like, I
I
don't
got
know
your
what's
back,
about to
Vic.
come out this mouth.
I got your back, Vic. I got your back. But what I want to know is there any talent that you wish you were super good at? Like anything out there?
Okay.
Anything at all.
Okay, first of all, I
That's
want
our
to
answer. No, I'm just
elaborate.
kidding.
I love picking up hobbies because then I get to say, hey, I've tried that, I've done that, and it's a great thing to go and tell people and talk about. Okay, so first and foremost. Second, if there was a talent that I could actually have, it would either be playing the piano or playing the violin because I feel like that would be cool.
She's trying to be Lindsay Sterling.
The only reason that Crystal knows Lindsay Sterling is because I told Tati Lindsay Sterling is coming to Reno in September and I'm going. And I was like, if you want to come, you can, but regardless, I'm going. And she's like, I've never heard her, but I'll come. And I showed her stuff.
Nice.
I was wondering, in this season that you're in today currently, because I know we talked a lot about, years and years ago. What has been the coolest thing, I guess, that the Lord has taught you or that you've walked through in this last year?
Oh, there's a few things because this year's had some stuff. I would say, sorry, there's a few things. So I'm trying to think of which one specifically, because there's been a lot of hard moments this year, but there have been so many beautiful things that have come from it that I'm just like, wow. I think the biggest one is I think this year the Lord has really, I would say, propelled me in my faith and pushed me in a lot of ways, whether it was, uh, learning to really read the Bible more with a lot of intentionality. I think realizing sometimes I would get in that mindset of like the Lord's only like with me when I'm reading the Bible, but I think now it's come to a point where I'm like, Jesus is with me all day, every day. Like he is always walking beside me. Like he is with me no matter what or where I go. And even there are moments where sometimes when I'm alone, like if I'm at work or, doing something, I'm just kind of chit chatting with God in my head. I'm like, so if it's stressful, particularly, I'm like, hey, you better come intervene right now. But, or just being able to tell him like, just amazing, wonderful, beautiful moments. Uh, but I think, the biggest thing that the Lord has probably worked on with me is like my level of confidence. Not that I was like I'm ugly or da 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 or not stuff like that, but confidence in being able to put my confidence in the Lord, of being able to take that step or that leap of faith and knowing that the Lord is going to direct my paths. And I think the biggest thing is I've really learned to kind of just relinquish all parts and every part of my life to the Lord, because sometimes I do stuff and I'm like, honestly, Lord, I don't know. I was like, this is for you. And I can say that the Lord honestly takes a lot of joy in me giving it to him and just being like, I'm here for the ride. I'm here forever. Whatever you want me to do, you just got to tell me. And so I think those are some of the big things he's taught me.
That's awesome.
If you were to meet a younger version of yourself,
No.
what advice would you give yourself?
I'm joking.
No.
If I was to meet my younger self, it was hard because I know my younger self was really stubborn in a lot of the ways that I would think or process things. And it sounds cliche, but I feel like I would, if I could have time to just like sit down, I think I would just tell my younger self there's nothing to be afraid of and there's nothing to fear. And there's no reason for you to have so much fear. It's stopping you from so much. And especially, having that freedom and having that joy. There are so many beautiful things to kind of witness and explore, but your fear is stopping you from doing it. And, you know, obviously I would tell myself more about Jesus, but it wouldn't be until I honestly got out of the home that I would be able to experience that. But I think that would be the thing that I tell myself is like, hey, there's no reason to be so afraid all the time.
When do you feel like closest to God?
I'll be honest, I actually planned on doing this after we got done with our podcast because I was like, it's been a hot minute. And honestly, it's usually when I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. I go to a room, I turn all the lights off. I will light some candles or like little mood lighting lights. And I'll hook my phone up to the TV through Spotify, because you know how Spotify has the lyrics. And so putting my worship music on and having my Bible, having my prayer notebook, and being able to just sit with him and being in silence. And it's so nice because in those moments, there are moments where I'll just be so happy that I just start crying because I'm with the Lord. And it's those really intense, intentional moments that I love having, and that I know that I'm closest with the Lord, because I get to just reflect on everything that he's done. I get to tell him intentionally that, it's not just I'm talking to him in passing moments, like I'm here with him. It's like, you know, with you, Crystal, when I hang out with you, or Tati, when I hang out with you, those are intentional moments. And sometimes I know in life things can kind of go by fast and get busy, but those moments I love because I'll just turn everything off. If it's an emergency, you better call me, because otherwise I'm not going to pick up. But I think those are the moments that I really enjoy with the Lord. It's just that intentional one-on-one time.
So, relationships are very important to all of us, which is why we have a relationship based podcast.
Amen.
What have been your most favorite moments with your brothers and sisters in Christ that you feel have been the biggest impact in your life?
Let me tell you, there have been so many freaking moments that it's hard to say. And because here's the thing, I can have like my general ones, but then there are all those little intimate small ones with each person. So I'm like, there's so many. And so for the sake of time, because like I said, there are like, 10, 15 people where I'm like, oh, I did this with this person, dot, 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 or this with that person, dot, dot, dot. It'll take too much time. It'll be like a whole nother hour. Um, but I'll say generalization. Uh, I think one thing that I loved, like beautiful moments, was the way that everyone interacted with one another. Everyone just felt so free to be themselves, and no one was ever judgy towards another person. We always loved and accepted that person as they were, and it was so clear. And when I'm with you guys, I feel free to just laugh, to be silly dumb. Uh, and then it's funny. We were there's this video, and I know we've all saved it, but it's like where you can be laughing, joking, and then in an instant go to having those deep talks. And I loved it because in those moments, you guys are so amazing at communicating, but not just communicating, but listening. Where there were so many moments where we would maybe have our girl days, or we would have our camping trips. I loved our first camping trip because it was one of those moments where we just sat around the campfire and we were just sharing our story. We're sharing what God was doing. And it was those moments of that deep vulnerability that just like made me want to be closer and get closer with you guys. And I think it was really just the deep talks, but also being able to live life and having a joyful life. And you guys were always just so filled with joy, and I loved it. Honestly, I felt like all of it was a really nice balance. We had our moments where we knew that there was a time to just sit down, talk, and not get to just know each other on a surface level, but really get to know the core of who each person was. And I love that, because I was like, for me, it was like no one's ever wanted to get to know like the deep core of who I was. And so for people to ask questions and then being able to go back and laugh, I don't know, I loved it. Like it was like a nice balance, like being able to know someone, but being able to do life with someone as well.
Actually, this is an interesting question that I looked up recently that I ask myself sometimes. If you can do anything in the world, like absolutely anything, knowing that it won't fail, what would you do?
For me, I think something would be uh, being able to have a healthy marriage, but having a family that I can share the Lord with, and being able, as it says in Matthew 28, like, make disciples of all the nations. I think it'd be beautiful to, find a husband that loves the Lord, and being able to grow in the Lord, of waking up and doing Bible studies with him, and then being able to raise a family with children that will come to know the Lord and love the Lord, uh, and have their own personal relationship with him, for them to be able to go out and share it with other people, and to experience the things that I've experienced without, having to go through the hardships that I went through. And so, yeah, to answer your question, if I could have anything that wouldn't fail, it'd be a successful marriage and a beautiful family.
Dude, that's the goal. That's good. What is something about you that people don't really get just by like an initial meeting you, or you know how like those initial interactions? What is something like different that maybe people don't get or people might want to know on the pod?
I would say when people first meet me, they usually think I'm pretty chill, which I am, but I think sometimes they think I'm a little more quiet or reserved, but sometimes it just takes me a hot minute to warm up to people. And usually once I warm up to people, like I love to, joke around, I love to have fun, I love to go exploring, all these different things. And so one of the big things I think people just, I don't know, I especially like at workers at work, or Bible studies, I think people think I'm really standoffish and don't want anything to do with them, but realistically, like I actually want to have a relationship and get to know them. I don't know why I give off that vibe, because in my head I'm like, I really want to get to know this person, but for whatever reason sometimes people think, maybe it's because of my face, I've been told a few times that when I'm focused or when I'm listening to people, I can kind of have a very serious, stern face that looks uninterested, but that's not the case. I'm actually very interested and want to get to know them, and I'm just listening intently because I'm trying to come up with questions to ask them in order to get to know them and build a relationship. So, yeah. I just need time, okay, people? And my face can be very deceiving. That's it.
For those who don't know, it was kind of all agreed upon that we do this podcast. And I think we all have our own individual goals and kind of like the things that we want to come out of the podcast. What are kind of your goals or things that you want people to experience through our podcast? I think it looks different for all of us. So I just want to know your perspective on it.
I will say this podcast has gotten me out of my shell in a few ways. I will say the videos that we post on Instagram are a big one. Having to act, and if you guys haven't seen it, I win as JoJo Siwa. I don't want to hear anything that I do not dedicate every ounce of myself to this podcast, because that took everything in me to do that. So let me just say that first and foremost. But I think something I really want people to get out of this is to, one, obviously know the Lord um, for themselves, but each of us have a different story, and hopefully someone will be able to be encouraged by one of our stories and to keep pressing in and to keep coming forward and to know that there is a place for them. Tati came up, with the title One of Us, and I really liked it because I liked that we want to invite people in. We want to build community. We don't want to be, I never wanted this podcast where it's like we have our stuff, you have your stuff, where it was like, no. This was like One of Us, being able to build relationships. And I was like, and that was something I've had to learn. And so for me to be able to share what I've learned and to give it to others, I only share because I know it works. And I know that there are probably other people out there who are struggling. And I hope that through this podcast, they become encouraged, apply some of these things, and, learn to kind of to build a community for themselves and see what God can do.
Okay, Victoria. This is a question that I feel like a lot of people tend to ask, but it's a funny one. So, do you think deep down you could survive a zombie apocalypse? And if so, how?
Okay, we asked this question the other day. Crystal, who was it? Crystal, did you ask me this? Someone
Yes,
asked.
and I told you you'd be the first person out.
Crystal said I would be the first person to go, and my response was, honestly, I think I would be able to survive because I'm
No.
really good at going unnoticed.
Rip.
And so
But I
think
feel like
I
they're
could.
zombies. They'd smell you out.
No, they look at my face and they say, nope, she's
Yeah,
uninterested.
Vic, your superpower of just like fading away in the background is not going to help you in a zombie apocalypse. You still got that meat and that blood flowing through your
No,
veins.
because honestly, I think they would be intrigued by Crystal because they'd probably see her running down the street, and it would captivate them. And then they'd probably see Juan, who's like building his own type of gun with all these different things to take out these zombies, and I'd just be standing there. So I think they wouldn't even. They'd probably just pass me by. They're like, no. They're like, let's go.
All right, what if we put a twist on it? What if it was Survivor?
Survivor?
Yeah.
I don't think I could make it to the end. I think I could at least make it to like the 3rd or 4th week.
Vic, the whole thing is like 26 days. So you're saying
Crystal,
third or fourth week is basically the end.
no, because isn't there like 7 or 8?
No, it's like 28
Or
days.
7 or sorry, the third
Oh.
or 4th round. Sorry, the third or fourth round.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm like, girl.
That's
what?
like
Sorry,
5
third or
days
4th
in.
round. My bad. Yeah, I think I could make it to the 3rd or 4th round at least.
Okay, Victoria, this is another question I want to know. What's a controversial food hot take that you have? An example would be like pineapple on pizza, but I want to know if you have anything obscure than that.
That
Okay.
isn't even controversial. Everyone knows that's the best.
Okay.
Don't bring your side in this, Crystal. Come on, let Victoria answer.
I'm going to say this because I get roasted for this all the time. So when you, okay, for people who like over easy, over medium, over hard eggs, okay, do you just like dip right into the yolk, or do you cut around the yolk and save the yolk for last and then eat the white part?
I dip right into the yolk.
I
Okay,
have no
that's
yolk.
trash.
That's nasty.
Uncultured.
Okay, that's my hot take is I'm a person that will eat around the yolk. So I'll save it and then I'll eat it and dip my bread into it because it's really good.
Vic, I think that's a condition on the DMS 5.
Thank you.
You're so particular with the way you eat. That's your controversy.
You're saying particular, and I don't like the hidden message that you're trying to relay.
Victoria eats strangely for everyone.
Crystal, you put tuna in your pasta. Don't talk to me.
Hey,
Don't.
it tastes good.
Okay,
Hey, my mom does that.
I have a follow-up question. This is actually a genuine
I
one.
think it's a
Nasty.
Cuban thing.
I have a follow-up
It's a
question. I have a
Cuban
follow-up
thing.
question. Okay, Victoria.
Mhm.
What crazy adventure is on your bucket list that you think most people would also want to have in their bucket list?
Mm. Can I say it's like a past bucket list item that I completed?
Sure, why not?
Okay. I think there was something that I did that I absolutely love that I did, and there was one day where I just really wanted to go travel and get out of the country, and I sat down, did my research, and I just told my mom, "Hey, I'm going to Costa Rica in like a couple weeks."
Time out,
And
Victoria.
her
You did
res-
not do your research. You told Crystal and I you were just gonna hammock on the trees.
My research was, where is the safest place that a girl can travel by herself? And it was Costa Rica. Okay, so back off. That was my research. And the cheapest. Okay. But yeah, my mom's like, either you find someone to go with you or I'm coming with. And I was like, well, who are 2 people that I know are going to be down for anything? I asked Juan and Crystal, and of course, Crystal said, yeah, let's do it. And Juan's like, I'm down. So yeah, we from there. I was just gonna full send it and go to Costa Rica. Crystal actually probably did most of the planning by saying, no, let's do this day, that this day, and all that stuff. And yeah, just taking a spontaneous trip somewhere for 10, 11 days. It was pretty legit.
Okay, everyone. Just like we end every episode, I want to start instead of a hot take with a would you rather question. So, Victoria, would you rather join the circus or an a cappella group?
I would say join the circus. And I feel like, I don't know what the girls are called, but you know, the ones that ride the horses and stuff and are doing like the acrobatics on them? I'd be that person in the circus.
That'd be a cool one.
I can concur with this because I stand next to you at church every Sunday, so I think your choice would be.
What the heck does that mean?
She's saying don't quit your day job.
I said don't go in the choir. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I have a beautiful voice.
Hey, I would
Hey,
join
you
an
have a beautiful
Crystal.
voice for the Lord.
Vic, you should have joined an acapella
I'm
group
just-
because then you could sing.
Ready?
10 out of 10.
Do a little cover for us right now of "Oh
Okay,
Come
go,
to the
Vic.
Altar."
Okay, go Vic.
You're gonna have the song that I literally broke me down.
Just sing the first.
That's the
come
point.
to- No, I can't do it. This is too much pressure.
Hey, don't quit your day job.
Hey, you guys are.
Vic, I want to see you in the circus. So do it.
My life literally is a circus.
You're right.
Yeah, you already know. All right, Crystal, what's yours?
What would I do?
Yeah,
I would also be in the circus.
copycat.
I would also be in the circus, but what would I do? I think I wouldn't be the acrobat on the horse. I would just be the normal acrobat, just swinging and catching people and then doing flips and stuff.
Okay,
I think that would be so fun.
I can
How
see
fun
that.
would that be?
But you probably couldn't hold anyone.
No,
Oof.
but they would be holding me, so it would be the best.
She'd be the one
the
that's
scenario.
swinging on and off.
Crystal,
Yeah,
I
I'd be
think
the
you're
one that's
small
getting
enough that you can be
swung.
launched out of the cannon.
Or you're one of those people
I'd
like in
love to do that.
an extortionist where they like crumple into a little box.
Extortionist?
And is that what it's called?
Contortionist.
Oh
you mix like
my gosh.
contortionist and,
And an
like
exorcist.
exorcist.
No, there's extortion is a word.
Dude, that would be great.
Extortion is
Imagine
a word.
Interviewing someone like that.
All these things. Okay, yeah, my bad.
I need to get these people bought. I was gonna
Okay,
say
Tati,
Bibles,
your
but I meant
turn.
dictionaries.
None
I
of us
feel
can
like-
speak clearly.
I would definitely do the acapella, but that's because I love music.
Hey, let's
So.
go. I'll do acapella too because I feel like joining the circus, your career path, you know, you never know. Like one day you're in the circus, one day it's not working out, and then your job's ruined. But if you could sing professionally, I mean, all power to you.
You tell me right now an a cappella group that has gone famous.
Pentatonics.
Pentatonics.
Get wrecked, Vic.
Okay. All right, never mind. I will humbly accept my defeat.
Plus, I would rather have a job that's not associated with clowns.
Oh,
Not every circus has clowns.
Victoria, what if you showed up and they said you need to be the clown?
Have you seen The Greatest Showman? No. Okay. What was your question, hon?
I said, what if you showed up and they said you have to be the clown?
I'd say easy money.
But you have to go to clown
You'd actually
school.
be an amazing clown.
I think you would be a good clown.
You'd be an amazing clown.
You're right.
I don't know if that's like a compliment or a huge insult.
Wait, this needs to be your Halloween costume.
Wait, I
can
got
see
better
you
question.
With
I
the little
know.
nose and the hair and just coming
if
up to
you
the
I want
stayed-
to say, when I talked about confidence, how it was rising, this is the moment where it starts to take a decline.
Okay, hold up. I have to say this. If you've made it this far, comment down below if you think Victoria should be a clown or not.
Don't
Maybe-
be doing all
Good one or
that.
not.
Maybe she can do some clown videos for the gram.
I already did JoJo Siwa. I'm not doing anything more.
All the truths that stay to the end of this podcast will know for sure. We'll
Co-
know it's you.
Comment the clown emoji so we know you watched
It'll
it.
be it'll be specified content just for you guys.
Watch, it's only going to be my mom that puts the clown emoji.
At least your mom did it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the One of Us podcast. Thanks, Vic, for being willing to just be interviewed, answer our questions, whether they were deep or funny. We love just growing this community and want you guys to continue to get to know us, and we want to get to know you. So please feel free to engage with us on Instagram and TikTok, obviously YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all of the above. And we'd love to just walk alongside you guys because you guys are one of us. So
Ooh.
we'll catch you again
Next time.
next week.
And also,
bye, guys.
let us know your prayers and everything as well. We'd love to pray about anything that's going on. Interact with us on all our social
Absolutely.
platforms. Thank you.